everybody. David Chatham with Angel Oak Creative. We are here for our latest episode of Impact Interviews. Some of you may know this is our 10th anniversary at Angel Oak Creative, so we're celebrating a year of love and impact, and doing that with a series of content and all of that. And this series that we're calling Impact Interviews is just one element of that. If you want to learn more about all of those things and the work that we're doing there, you can just go to nonprofitloveandimpact.com. So love to have you. These interviews will be there as well. So today we are really grateful to have Shernetta Harrell with us. Shernetta is the founder and executive director of the No Woman No Girl initiative. I'll let her tell you more about that because she does an amazing job telling that story. But Shernetta, welcome.
Thank you so much, David, for allowing me to be on here and to share more about the No Woman No Girl initiative.
Well, you all do some great work, and I can't wait to share that with more folks and hopefully get some people behind you. You know, I was joking with Shernetta a little before this that she's got to be like one of the busiest women on the planet. Either that or she's cloned. I don't know, but because she is everywhere and doing so much. So thank you for all you do to make an impact on our community, Shernetta, and the folks on your team. I know you don't have a big team. I know a lot of it is just you. But I know that, you know, that you do have some folks out there supporting you, and, you know, welcome the chance to kind of talk about what all that means. So tell us a little bit about you, maybe just your why of how you ended up with founding the No Woman No Girl initiative, and then, you know, just a little bit about what you do through that work.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I have been a social worker for about 7 years now. And I have been a social worker in various settings. So that's schools, that's group homes, residential treatment facilities, behavioral health, all of the things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I kind of observed over the years was just this ongoing trend of people really just not having what they needed to survive every day. And what I mean by that is lots of times I would have students to come to me. They would say, hey, Ms. Harrell, you know, my mom's kind of struggling this month. You know, we kind of ran out of toothpaste. You know, we don't really have any money to be able to get that. Or I would have girls who may be menstruating, and they might say, hey, Ms. Harrell, I'm not going to be able to make it to school for about 2 weeks because I got my period and I don't have any pads, right? And I found myself doing what most people would do, you know, going to Target, going to the dollar store, trying to put together these little Ziploc bags. And really what I found over time was that this was not sustainable long term. And it really wasn't providing any relief. It could provide maybe a day or two of relief, but it wasn't providing a long-term form of relief. And so last year, at the height of COVID-19, a lot of these stories and patterns that I was seeing already, you know, if you were on the poverty line, or if you were just struggling middle class to any degree, you know, when the pandemic came, when the housing crisis came, it really pushed these people over the edge. Yeah. And so these issues around period poverty and just lack of access to everyday essentials became more prevalent after the pandemic than before.
Right.
And so as a social worker, I'm trained to find resources, right? Social workers are trained to, there is no, right? Like we can't take no for an answer. And so for me, I said, okay, surely there has to be a nonprofit. Surely there has to be somewhere in Wake County where I can have a head to toe framework of what someone needs for every day. And I couldn't find it. I could not find an organization that was serving women and girls that was providing a head to toe framework for everyday essentials, not just period products, but things that, you know, you, David, used this morning yourself to get up. You know, if you took a bath this morning, if you brushed your teeth, hopefully, those are essentials that you need for every day. And I said, okay, you know, I worked at a nonprofit when I was in graduate school in Alabama. I had already had a lot of experience in fundraising, program development. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take my compassion for women. I'm going to take my compassion for social work. I'm going to take my experience in, the nonprofit sector, and I'm just going to make the resource, right?
Wow.
And I will never forget talking to my husband one day. We were in the living room and I was talking to him about, the business plan. And we were trying to, I was trying to come up with a name. And I said, you know what? No woman and no girl should ever have to worry about what they need to survive. Like, why does this organization why do I have to create this? And I said, you know what? That's the name.
Yeah.
No Woman, No Girl initiative. This is the name, and we're going to run with it.
Oh, that's great.
In 2021, we served 502 women and girls from August to December. That's not even the full year. And we have grown quickly than really what I thought that we would. But I really think that now there's this raised awareness and consciousness around, wow, I really do take for granted having access and affordability to everyday essentials. And so right now, we have a donated space at Vision Church. That's where our distribution is housed, all these containers that you see behind me. And we service our women and girls through social workers and case managers through our partnering agencies. We also do some outreach work. We go out to the community. We're very intentional on meeting the women and girls where they are in the community.
Yeah.
And so that's how we got started.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, to your point, it is. I think so many of us, including myself, just take for granted that, when I open the medicine cabinet or whatever, that I'm going to have the essentials, right? I mean, I'm going to have some toothpaste. I'm going to have some soap. I'm going to, have, my wife's going to have the hygiene needs that she needs. But yeah, it's like a lot of things, we aren't able to look at it through the eyes of others. So I think that's maybe one impact that conversations like this can help people to see, that it is some things we take for granted, others just don't have the opportunity to have it all, right? So well, thank you. That's exciting. I mean, it's to go from 0 to 500 must have been kind of overwhelming at times, I would guess.
Absolutely. I think we were building the ship as we were sailing, right? Like, you start out with one thing and you're like, okay, wait a minute, maybe we need to try this. We'll see something. We're like, okay, we gotta change some things around. But now I can honestly say that we're, kind of in sustainability mode, at this point. So that's really exciting.
Well, and the impact you're making is, and I love how freely you talk about, period products and things like that, right? Because there's kind of this past shame involved with some of those things, right? But also it's an awkward thing to talk about for some people, right? And being able to normalize it and to create a sense of just comfortability, with it, I think is one of the impacts that I think that you can make and that you are making within our community. What have you found as far as when you're, I noticed that, I think it was Papa Murphy's. I think it was Richard Avery was there, and I'm actually going to try to interview him for an impact interview coming up. But what's that conversation like when you have it with with people from a corporate standpoint or whatever, and you say, hey, I'd really like you to put a box in your lobby and collect personal hygiene products? I mean, is that, how's that going for you? What's that?
Well, that's a great question, David. So what a lot of people don't know about us is that 100% of the essentials. So in 2021, we collected 10,315 essentials.
Wow.
All of those essentials are from the community, right? Yeah. So whenever people ask, how can we support you? What do you need? It's always hosting a drive. It's always, we need essentials, right? Because that is 90% of our program.
Yeah.
And so when I have conversations like with people like Richard, to be honest, I say, Richard, what essentials did you use this morning to get up? Right? Like, if you're married, okay, ask your wife what she would do if she didn't have access to pads, right? And so
Right.
then there's, even with men, also what I'm finding is that men are becoming compassionate about our work because men come from women. And so, there's wives, there's daughters, there's aunts, there's grandmothers.
Yeah.
And so there's this education awareness around that. And so Richard said, you know what? It's Women's Month.
That's good.
Every, Papa Murphy's in Wake County, we need to get the word out. We need to, more people need to know more about the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And that is really how we're able to strengthen our partnerships and leverage them, even with people like Richard, who's in a corporate position.
Yeah.
And, I can't tell you how many times people might see a box or they might see our logo and they'll say, oh my God, I did not know, that this was such an issue. Or they'll
Right.
say, oh my goodness, I take for granted every day, that this issue. And,
Yeah.
they become compelled.
Yeah, well, I loved, and we'll move on from Richard, but I loved his post saying that, when he went to the store to buy basically a case of feminine hygiene products, of pads and all that, he's like, I had no shame. And, I think that's what we really, have to get to, is that kind
Yeah.
of, that being unashamed or unafraid
Mhm.
to do things that make an impact, but might cause us a moment of embarrassment, right?
Mhm.
So if that's the worst we have to deal with, then we're really blessed, right?
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, the impact that you have on the women and girls you serve, what is some of the comments or some of the experiences they've had with receiving these
Yeah.
essentials, and what does it mean to them?
Yeah. David, that's great. It was funny because I will never forget our first outreach event that we did, where, this is us intentionally setting up a table, setting up, bags. And I remember my volunteers being there and trying to train them on, what to say or, how to say it. And it's so funny because every outreach event that we have ever had, we have never had to approach women or girls. They always come to us.
Yeah.
And it's, oh my God, wow, like you guys have pads, or oh wow, like you guys have soap. Oh yes, sure. Can I take one for my daughter? Can I take one for my aunt? It's, I think initially I thought that us going out to the community, there would be this shame, right? Like that you said,
Yeah,
but it hasn't been.
that's great.
And I think the other thing, we've also partnered with UNC at their Family Resource Center for cancer patients,
Oh, wow.
because a lot of people also don't realize that women who are diagnosed with cancer, there's financial strain and there's homelessness that's attached to that. And I will never forget one of the ladies that we supported in December. She wrote us a message from the social worker, and she said, out of all of the Christmas gifts that I received, that bag from the No Woman No Girl initiative was my favorite.
Wow.
And I thought that was one of the moments where I said, okay, we're headed on the right direction.
Wow. Now that's impact, right? I mean, that,
Yeah.
and I think that's the other thing is, working Angel Oak, we only work with nonprofits. So we live in this space, and, you know, I think a lot of times people look at the quantitative impact. They look at
Mhm.
how many, right? Which is great. I mean, we want to serve as many people as we
Yeah.
can in this community.
Yeah.
But we also sometimes miss the individual, right? And just how important that one woman's experience was. And I think both are important, right? I'm not saying one's more
Yeah.
important than the other, but hearing a story like that reminds us that what we're doing isn't it isn't a mass effort. It
Mhm.
really is personal, right? It it
Mhm.
it really is a one-on-one kind of activity, in the sense that one person is benefiting from this and gaining whatever it is that they gain out of it. And we see that with so many of our nonprofits, of related to whether it's someone recovering from drug addiction or whether
Mm,
it's a child who is without clothes, like with note in the pocket, or
yeah.
any of those, right? And just how the response is just so indicative of the power of the work that you're
Mm,
doing. And I love those individual stories of impact that just show how meaningful this kind of work is. So
mhm.
congratulations on that. I know you don't necessarily take credit for it, but I know that that you're very grateful for the work that you do and the impact that you are making. Um, what are some of the challenges that you face as someone who's trying to make an impact, as an individual or as an organization? What are some of those things that maybe inhibit you from making a bigger impact?
Yeah, well, I think any executive director would say funding, right?
It's either capacity or funding,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
those
I
two go
think,
together.
I'll be transparent with you, David, because I like to be honest.
Sure.
What a lot of people don't know about me is that I have a full-time job.
Mm,
And currently, we're in campaign mode. We're in the silent phase of our campaign, but I honestly did not think that the No Woman No Girl initiative would get to the point where our impact has been so um, just big
yeah,
across Lake County. And so I think one of the things is being a full-time employee.
yeah,
We have a goal to bring myself and a couple of other staff members on. Right now, our volunteer database is amazing. We have 72 volunteers.
that's great.
We have 4 lead agents. We actually do not refer to our volunteers as volunteers. Um, we actually refer to them as agents of change
Nice. I like
because
that.
we believe that they are truly agents of change. And so we have lead agents who volunteer to serve in different capacities until we can hire. But I think for us, of course, and I think any nonprofit would say either funding or capacity. We've been able to make impact the way that we have been, but we know that this is not sustainable long term.
Well, talk about that campaign a little bit then, and what are your goals with that, both financially but also from an impact perspective? How is that going to change the way that you're able to serve?
Yes, absolutely. So in December of 2021, we entered the silent phase of our first ever capital campaign.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so we will go public with our campaign in June of this year.
Great.
In April, we will share and announce what is that going to look like. Where we are going as a nonprofit is similar to you and I. When we run out of everyday essentials, we go to Target, we go to Walmart. So when women and girls run out of everyday essentials in Raleigh and Wake County, we want them to come to the No Woman No Girl initiative.
Mm,
So really, what does it look like for us to be downtown Raleigh, where the bus station is, in Moore Square, where our partnering agencies are, for women and girls to just come off the street, no questions asked, to immediately gain access to what they need to survive.
yeah.
So that is the framework for our capital campaign. We do plan on hiring a director of operations as well as a case manager. We know that essentials is just a small problem, sometimes
Right.
that women and girls may have, but we want to make sure that they get connected to the right folks. And so
Yeah.
that will be the role of the case manager.
Do you have an amount of money you're trying to raise that you can share at this point, or is that come in June?
Yeah, so in June, everybody will
Okay.
know.
Okay. That's great. Well, we'll be sure to share that. So keep
Yeah.
us informed, and we'll make sure people know, at least the ones that we know anyway, know about it. So
Absolutely. And I think too, David, to be transparent, I'm a double minority. I'm a woman and I'm also a woman of color.
right.
And I think, unfortunately, in a lot of spaces, there aren't a lot of people that look like me
Yeah.
who, are making impact. And so I think that Raleigh is doing a phenomenal job at creating more opportunities for people of color to propel their mission.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating, as someone who is not in your shoes, but at least looking in, and just because I know you, at least to some degree, right? I mean, we're not best friends or anything,
Right.
maybe one day, but I and people like Troy Johnson and the bro codes, right? And I see just the amazing ability,
Mm,
and just get so frustrated that there's any sort of barrier for
mm,
you to realize the potential, right, that you have to make our world a better place and to experience your own success, right? So
yeah.
uh, thank you for all you do, and I hope this is one way maybe that we just continue to to expand your reach, your visibility, and to do that. And as you think of ways that we might be able to help, please let us know. I mean, you know we want to be a platform where we can be. So
And
um,
thank you, David, for, you could have chosen nonprofits that may be more foundational, or they've maybe been around a little longer. And I appreciate people like yourself that use their businesses and they use their platforms for good to further amplify the voices of nonprofits that are more up and coming. So I appreciate you for allowing me to come on and to share more about our mission.
it's our honor. So thank you for that. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So so let's go there. Um, what are some of the, from a, and maybe you've touched on this a little bit, so if you feel like you've covered it, just we can move on to something else. But what are some of the myths or some of the misperceptions that are out there
Mm.
around this subject, or maybe even related to leadership within your own organization, or others like yours? But what are some of those myths or misperceptions out there that you would want to correct for people?
Mm. Ooh, that's a great question. I would say, I think what I've learned in the past year and 3 months is that going back to funding, sometimes people have had negative experiences with maybe making philanthropic commitments to a nonprofit because, we hear things that happen in,
Yeah,
nonprofit organizations, or, we hear about board members and, all those types of things. But
yeah,
I just want to say that, and I'm not even speaking for myself, but we have
mm,
some people who have integrity who are really leading nonprofits in this area. And I know a lot of people sometimes can be a little reserved to give, whether that's their time, whether that's money, or whether that's in kind, and
right.
if anyone is listening to this, I would really encourage them to get to know your executive director, spend time with them. A lot of the people who give to us, I make time, I spend time with them.
Yeah,
It's not transactional, it's relational.
yeah,
It's sitting down, breaking bread, getting to know your family, getting to know, people, so that people can understand what is truly driving the work,
yeah,
right? Like what's truly driving this. And that's why for me, I'm never really afraid to share my story, and really how the No Woman No Girl initiative came about. And it was really from personal experiences as well. My grandmother had breast cancer. I was in
mm,
high school. I had a lot of questions as to, what resources are available to her. Are there any essentials that maybe she could have had?
right.
And, those personal experiences really shaped my compassion for this organization.
Yeah,
And when people hear that, they're like, oh, wow. So she really is doing,
yeah,
she really is
wow,
doing this.
yeah,
Um, and, too, I would also say a misconception is that, it's not, when people think of a campaign, or when people think of fundraising, people immediately think about finances.
Yeah.
And for us at the No Woman No Girl initiative, our campaign in June is not just about finances. Like we
Okay.
have an essential goal, right? Because we
Oh
have to
yeah.
have essentials to be able to keep this going,
Yeah.
right? We also have a partner goal. We know that without partnerships and relationships, we're not going to be able to continue to do this work.
Right.
So there's also, this compassion for getting out there and getting to know people, and not just being inside and, working alone, but
Yeah.
really expanding our network so that we can do good together.
That's great. Well, I love that you and we would at Angel Oak, we agree that, from a campaign perspective, there is certainly always a financial goal, right? But to your point,
Mhm.
it's always ideal if you can come up with some of those secondary goals, or maybe even as important goals, but the things that aren't related to finances, to your point, that are going to move the organization forward, that can happen, in tandem with the work that you're doing to raise money. So that's really
Mhm.
wise. So good job there. Um, this may be an ignorant question. I don't know, but I'm not afraid to be ignorant. So um, from just a practical standpoint, when it comes to women and their essentials, is any of that covered by things like Medicaid, or by any sort of insurance, or are there other resources for them to get those, or are those really limited?
So, David, I am so glad that you asked me that question.
Right.
The unique thing about our organization is that we are the only nonprofit organization that is meeting the need that our government is not.
Right.
So when you go to the grocery store and you're shopping and you see the WIC stickers,
Hmm.
right? Where do you typically see those WIC stickers? Like where specifically do you see them?
Milk, bread, yeah, those sorts of things, right? The food essentials, right?
Yeah, yeah. But if you take your little shopping cart and you go down aisle 13, to pads and toothpaste and soap, you're not gonna see those WIC stickers,
Okay, so
right?
it's not covered.
So WIC, for people who do not know what that is, that's the Women's, Infants, and Children's Program.
Right.
It is a federal and state funded program that is designed for women who are at risk for certain things, and it helps them and supports them with their baby. Unfortunately, and I always try to paint this picture for people, imagine being a mom, or imagine just being in a grocery store and only having access to WIC and only being able to purchase the items that have that sticker,
Mm,
right? So that
yeah.
means you're only purchasing produce, you're not even able to purchase paper towels.
Wow.
You are only able to purchase produce, eggs, dairy, milk, canned food, frozen food, all that good stuff. And while
Right.
that's good, right?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But my question is, why is food essential, but essentials are not essential,
Right.
right? Like we
Yeah.
got to have essentials to be able to survive.
Yeah.
So to your question, no. And
Okay.
that is how our organization is meeting that gap
Right.
um, of policy, of federal and state policies that they don't allow that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I thought that was the case, but again, I
Hmm.
didn't want to make any assumptions about that. So
And it's something that a lot of people don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
You would be amazed at sometimes when I'm talking to people and they're like, huh? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you can't. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly one of those messages that I think would be very valuable to make sure people understand. So, and maybe you do, and I missed it, so that wouldn't surprise me either. So,
Yes, we do a lot of
so,
education around whenever I do presentations, whenever I'm asked to speak. That's one of the first things that I mention is
yeah,
how our organization is meeting the need of really bridging the gap
Yeah,
between WIC and, everyday essentials.
that's great. Well, Sharnetta, thank you so much for your time and for the impact that you're making on our community. Remind us one more time how people can learn more about the No Woman No Girl initiative and what ways they can support you.
Absolutely. So our website is www.nowomannogirl.com. We are on Instagram at No Woman No Girl. We are also on Facebook, the No Woman No Girl Initiative. The quickest way to get involved with us, we have a volunteer form online. Our team sends out an email every month about needs that are happening, whether it's in our distribution site or whether it's us serving the community. So I always tell people, if you can't give out your pockets, you can always give your time.
That's right. Yeah, and also to be a collection site, right, for
Yes,
that. And
absolutely. You
I
can
think
always
Angel
host
Oak
a
is gonna.
drive.
I've been in touch with you about that, so I think Angel Oak is going to try to
Yeah,
do a collection maybe next month. So I'll
you
let
can
you know if we're
always
able to do that. But
you can always host a drive.
yeah,
That's always a need, because that's not only meeting the need for us and our women and girls, but it's also teaching other people about not our mission, but just the awareness of all of the perplexed issues that we support as well.
right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for the work that you're doing with the No Woman No Girl initiative, making a difference in our community. Yeah, it's just amazing work and such a great impact. So thank you for that, and we look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you, David.
Take care now. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.